Hi there, I'm Julie Bastide with the Christian Working Woman, and today we're talking about what really matters. A few years ago, I gave up the idea of New Year's resolutions, and instead, I've been choosing a word for the year. This concept's not new or original to me. Mike Ashcraft and Rachel Olson wrote a book called My One Word. And the idea is to choose one word that represents what you most hope or think God will do in you. So throughout the year, you focus on it, you search the scriptures that speak to your word, pray about it, and then through these disciplines, change and growth will happen. For me, it's really been a great practice. For example, a few years ago, I chose boldness or courage as my word for the year. Boldness not only in my work to do the things that needed to be done, but also in reaching out to others in my life with the great news of the gospel. Another year I chose trust for all the changes that were happening in my life and work. My goal was to focus on God's sovereignty and trust Him for the future. And this by no means means that I've conquered these concepts. It's just a way to view things. It's a filter for the year, if you will. So as I thought about my word for this year, it became apparent that I needed to focus on humility. Recently, I'd encountered some moments when I realized my pride was getting in the way. And I wouldn't normally say I'm a prideful person, but of course we all struggle with this in one way or another. So when I realized what was happening, I felt sort of slapped in the face. And with a heavy heart, I begrudgingly decided that I should focus on humility and what that really means. Webster's definition of humility is having or showing a modest or low estimate of one's own importance. Well, during the Christmas season, I was reminded that, of course, Jesus humbled himself, the greatest example of humility. And Jesus only uses two words to describe himself, and they come from a very familiar passage in Matthew 11. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I'm gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Wow, of course I knew this. I've read this passage 100 times. I've even read the book Gentle and Lowly by Dane Ortland, which is a great book if you haven't read it. But I needed to be reminded that humility is not a punishment. And if I want to be more like Jesus, I need to practice being humble. He gives grace to the humble, James 4:6 says. And later, James says, we should humble ourselves before the Lord and he'll exalt us. And I've discovered there are so many great verses about humility, but here's one more from Ephesians. I, therefore, a prisoner for the Lord, urge you to walk in a manner worthy of the calling to which you've been called, with all humility and gentleness and patience, bearing with one another in love, eager to maintain the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. Well, my mindset on this word has totally changed, and now I look forward to what God has for me this year. It's not a punishment to endure as I learn about humbleness and humility. It's a privilege to learn and grow in this area and hopefully become more like Jesus.